What would you do if you were a passionate follower of Jesus and you had completely given your entire life to Him? You were following Him with your whole heart, spending time in prayer, spending time in Scripture, and eagerly making disciples for His kingdom, but He was not answering a prayer that was very near, dear, and close to your heart. What would be your response? How would you handle that frustrating situation? Well, that's the predicament that Joe, a pastor and church planter in Allentown, Pennsylvania, found himself in when he and his beautiful wife, Amy, began trying to have children. They attempted, they tried, and they were initially unsuccessful. They were shocked. They were discouraged. They didn't understand why they couldn't get pregnant. But they believed they would just trust God. And they would just start praying and that God would help them out. But days went by, weeks went by, months went by, even years went by. And they were still unable to have a baby. All the while, they're leading a church and pointing people to Jesus, reminding them of His goodness, of His love, of His faithfulness, and how they could completely trust Him with their whole life. So, even in the midst of their frustration, they kept praying. But it was very difficult and it was very challenging. Mother's Day would come and go, birthdays would come and go, friends and family and other people would get pregnant. People would ask, when are you guys going to get pregnant? Still, no baby. So, a couple of years into this situation, they decided, you know what, we're going to keep praying, but we're also going to surrender this situation to God. We're going to trust God, trust His timing, trust His will, and trust His plan. They took a lot of comfort in John 13:7, what Jesus told His disciples after He washed their feet. He said, you don't understand what I'm doing now, but later you will. And they remembered how God had been good to them and that they could trust Him completely. So they kept praying and they kept believing, and they began sharing with other friends and other family members that they couldn't get pregnant. Other people began praying and offering encouragement and offering support. But days and weeks and months and years continued to go by. But they kept praying and they kept trusting. And they found a freedom in surrendering this completely to Jesus. Then, 6 years after trying, on March 28, 2016, their son Ray was born. And they were overjoyed by God's goodness and God's provision and God's faithfulness. And not only were they thankful for their new baby, they were also thankful for the experience of having to wait on a child, because in that time they got to know God better, they got to know each other better, and they got to know other believers better as well, and it prepared them to be even better parents than they might have been before. You see, waiting time is not wasted time in the hands of God. And I don't know what you're waiting for. You may not be waiting on a baby. You might be waiting on a job. You might be waiting on a healing. You might be waiting on meeting someone special. Scripture says, they that wait on the Lord will renew their strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not grow faint. In the comments below, I want you to write, what are you waiting on? And I want to invite you and encourage you to keep praying, to keep trusting, and keep connecting to God, and that the gift is not the answer to your prayer. The gift is getting to know God better than ever, and seeing Him and seeing His goodness and experiencing His love in deeper ways. And I'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks here at Live the Story.